Good afternoon, good evening, everyone. I'm super excited to be speaking here for Roomvo University. My name is Anthony Milia. I'm an award-winning digital marketer and best-selling author, and we've earned the opportunity to work with shops across the United States to help them shed light on their sales and marketing challenges to get them better marketing and better results. Today, we're going to talk about how to measure your marketing ROI so you can take actionable steps that will grow your business. And I'll also talk about the key metrics to pay attention to, what to avoid, and best practices. And along the way here, I do invite you to be present, take notes, and take pictures. My goal for you today is one actionable takeaway after my session here. So I want to start with a question, and I want you to really think about this. How much do you want to grow this year? We're already in March, and some of you have completed your annual planning meetings with your team, whether it was within the last few weeks, months, or it was back in November and December when it should have been. So I want you to comment and chat. What is your growth goal this year? Picture that number. Is it 10%, 20%? Is it adding another 500,000 in revenue, another million in revenue, 5 million in additional revenue? Now, imagine what that growth can do for you, your team, and your business. So my next question, once you have that answer, right, is if you hit your goal this year, how will that impact your business? Picture the clients that you can help, the team members that you can hire, the peace of mind that you'd feel. If you hit that goal this year, how would you feel and what would it allow you to do as a result of hitting that goal? So let's pause for a moment and just think about what growth really looks like. And I'm not talking about a few extra leads here and there. I'm talking about measurable, transformative growth, the kind of growth that could add another $1 million to your bottom line. Because when you track, test, and optimize, you don't just grow, you take control. When you track, test, and optimize, you don't just grow, you take control. You take control of your marketing and you take control of your results. So, why does ROI matter? Because marketing isn't free. It's an investment, and with any investment, you should expect a return. So I want you to comment and chat with what's the impact on your business when you hit those growth goals. If you mentioned you're looking to grow by 10%, 5%, 30%, 500,000 in revenue, 1 million, 2 million in revenue, what's the impact that would have on your shop? Could be expanding your facility, could be purchasing new machinery and equipment if you hit these goals, adding new team members, raises or bonuses for your staff because they worked so hard to help you hit these goals. And then lastly, reinvesting it back into the business. So when you know your ROI, you can make informed decisions and you know where to invest more, where to pull back, and how to reinvest intelligently. This takes you from hoping that your strategy works to knowing that it does. Now, what happens if you do not measure your marketing ROI? So what could possibly happen, right? When you don't track your ROI, you're flying blind. And we know in this industry that blind spots will cost you. You're going to miss your revenue goals, inefficient marketing campaigns, wasted ad spend with no insights. You have poor sales and marketing collaboration resulting in lost leads. You have a frustrated team because yet another year, your business didn't hit those growth goals. And then lastly, your competitors are starting to really compete. This is what happens if you do not measure your marketing ROI. Now, are we measuring what matters? So I want to address the vanity metrics that can really throw you off track as you kind of go through this journey here. And seeing 10,000 likes on a social media post, that feels good. But what does it really mean if no one actually books a call or walks into your showroom? Are we measuring what truly matters? Or are we getting caught up in the metrics that make us feel good, but they don't really move the needle? So vanity metrics like impressions, follower counts, likes, they don't help you understand whether your investment is working. We really want to have the conversation and focus on customer acquisition. Now, we've talked about how important it is to measure what matters, but let's be honest, some metrics don't matter as much as they seem. I call these vanity metrics. These are the metrics that look good on the surface, but don't tell you if your marketing is actually working. And we might feel like our campaigns are performing well, but because of the attention that they're getting, without conversions or leads, that attention isn't paying the bills. And sorry, clicked one too far. So the vanity metrics to avoid: social media likes, your general impressions, your followers, page views. And on the next slide, as you just caught a glimpse of that, I'm going to go over the metrics to pay attention to. So here are some of the valuable metrics, and there's 7 that I'm going to call attention to. CPL, the simple but powerful number. It tells you how much you're spending to acquire each lead. The formula is pretty straightforward. We're going to dive into that here in a second. So your total marketing spend divided by the number of leads generated. This equals your CPL, cost per lead. How much does it cost your business to acquire a new lead that comes in? Whether it's filling out a form, calling a phone number, walking to your showroom. Do you know the answer to that question? Do you know how much your cost per lead is for Google Ads, for SEO, for Facebook ads, for email marketing, for a billboard, for a yard sign, a door hanger? It's going to be different across the board. So let's use an example. If your total marketing spend for this month is $5,000 and you generated 75 leads this month, you're spending around $66.67 to acquire that lead. Is that healthy for your margins? Is it not? These are some of the things that you need to pay attention to. And this is why this metric is so important, because it really helps drive conversations around marketing and data. Now, the next one, the main topic of the presentation today, is MROI, marketing return on investment. This is the second key that I'm going to call attention to. So again, the formula is this: increased sales, subtracting your marketing spend, divided by your marketing spend equals your marketing ROI. And it's important to note that this formula assumes that all sales growth is linked to marketing efforts. Therefore, should marketing get all the credit for it or not, right? They shouldn't. So we want to account for organic sales growth. And this is just an example. $500,000 minus, so $500,000 of increased sales minus your marketing spend divided by your marketing spend equals a 4x or 400% ROI. Now, let's subtract out the organic sales growth, because not all marketing is driving the sales growth. You might have referrals, you might have repeat business from existing clients or customers. So we want to remove that from the equation. Sales growth minus organic sales growth minus marketing costs divided by marketing costs equals your marketing ROI. As an example here, $500,000 in increased sales minus your $100,000 of organic increased sales minus marketing budget of $100,000 divided by marketing budget of $100,000 equals a 3x or 300% marketing ROI. That's something that we want to pay attention to, is how much are we spending per year and what is that result? Your ROAS, ROAS. This formula is revenue from ads divided by ad spend equals ROAS. So for example, if you spend $1,000 on ads and generate $5,000 in revenue, your ROAS is 5, meaning that you're earning $5 for every dollar that you spend. Conversion rates. If people are looking for flooring in Cleveland, Ohio, and they click on our ad, they go to our website, are they filling out a form or calling a phone number? Number of new form submissions. How many submissions are you getting on a weekly, daily, monthly, quarterly basis? Are you tracking this number? Are you able to look back 6, 12, 18 months from now to compare any seasonality patterns, any bottlenecks or challenges in strategy? Are you able to forecast this number? Here's how we're looking at 3 months ago, and where are we trending over the next 3 months? Number of new phone calls. Anyone tracking prospective phone calls coming in? This is probably the cherry on top of my presentation when I speak at Tice, at KBiz, at Coverings, because a lot of the shops that we're working with, when they first sign up with us or when we're talking on stage, a lot of shops aren't tracking their new phone calls that are tied to marketing. So you're able to see what marketing sources and channels are driving the most calls. You're able to listen into the calls. What are my customers saying? What are my reps saying back to the customer? Are there any questions that my customers are asking on these calls that we can address in website copy or in other ad campaigns? So these are some of the data points that you can really expose when you start tracking new phone calls. And then the last one is foot traffic. How many people walked into the shop today, over the last week, over the last month, over the last quarter? Can you compare this day to last year, this week to last year, last week, right? So that is something important to understand when you're looking to make better decisions on how to allocate your marketing spend. So again, the top 7 metrics all on one slide. Your cost per lead, CPL, your MROI, marketing return on investment, ROAS, which is your return on ad spend, conversion rates, number of new form submissions, number of new phone calls, and foot traffic. Those are the top 7 key metrics that I invite you to start paying attention to. Whether you are the person in charge of your marketing or you have a freelancer, a marketing department, a marketing firm that is in charge of these metrics. Now, the next part is once you have those metrics and you're bringing those to the table during those marketing meetings, you got to know your lead source and where your best conversions and your best customers are coming from. So identify where leads originate, whether it's organic search, your paid ads, your direct calls, email marketing, and determine which sources result in actual conversions. So ask yourself or your marketing person, where are the leads coming from? Where are best customers coming from? Which leads are actually converting and from which sources? So just you could take a moment and just put this into perspective, right? Think about your own business and just mentally fill in the blanks. The number of leads that you're getting on a monthly basis, what is your estimated sales conversion rate? If you have 100 leads that come in for the month of February, around what percentage were closed into an actual project? Now, if you don't have that number, a firm number, and you don't know that, that is my homework to you is to find out what is the average sales close rate across the company as a total. And then you can dial it in further is, do you have different sales reps that have just a wide range of percentages, right? You have one sales rep, Susan, that is closing at 60%. Then you have another sales rep that's closing at only 20%. So you can identify gaps and you can improve the training around that too. Your cost per lead, how much is it costing your business to acquire a new customer? So think about the numbers for your different channels, your Google Ads, Facebook, organic SEO. Are you seeing different trends between them? Because when you know these metrics, you can really start to spot patterns. Maybe your Google Ads cost per lead is higher than expected, but leads are closing at a much higher rate. Or maybe your organic SEO is driving the bulk of your website traffic, but the leads just aren't converting. This gives you the power to really adjust and reallocate your ad spend. So take a second. Where do you think your weakest spot is? Is it the volume of the leads? Is it the conversion process? Is it the cost on how much it costs your business to acquire a new lead? Now, how do your numbers actually compare to the industry standards? This is one of the most important questions that you can ask yourself because your marketing budget really directly impacts your ability to grow. So we're going to look at some benchmarks for marketing budgets as a percentage of revenue. And these aren't just random numbers. They really represent levels of investment tied to realistic growth expectations. So as an example, and before I get into that here, just align your marketing budget with your growth goals. If you're aiming to grow $1 million in additional revenue, but your spend is at $1,000 per month, you're probably setting yourself up for frustration. So where do you think you fall as I go through this slide here? And where do you need to be? So if your percentage of revenue allocated to marketing is less than 0.5%, generally means it's unrealistic for significant growth. It likely won't achieve set revenue goals, especially for $1 million growth aspirations. It may lead to missed opportunities due to underfunded marketing, especially in competitive markets. 1 to 2%, minimal investment. may sustain existing business but unlikely to generate substantial new customer acquisition. What that means, it's sufficient for maintaining market share, but limited in terms of expanding audience or trying new strategies. If your percentage of revenue allocated to marketing is 2 to 3.5%, it's a moderate investment, supports competitive online and offline visibility and consistent growth. It's a balanced strategy for businesses aiming for meaningful growth while controlling costs. 3.5 to 8%. You guys might say, Anthony, stop. This is getting way too uncomfortable. This is spending way too much of my budget here. There's one more, though. 3.5 to 8%. Growth focused investment enables brand building, customer acquisition, and market share expansion. It's a strong commitment to increasing leads, sales, and brand awareness through multiple marketing channels. And lastly, you're 8 to 15% and higher. It's aggressive and strategic. It's suitable for businesses in hyper growth mode or entering new markets. It's ideal for rapid growth and dominance, including large scale campaigns like digital ads, events, influencer partnerships, billboards, radio, you name it.
Anthony, do you find that of the benchmarks that you've included here, that there's kind of like a sweet spot where you're finding that a lot of your customers or maybe those in the industry kind of fall within?
What we're seeing within the industry now is that where they're coming from with their marketing budgets, where it used to be non-existent, and now shops are getting comfortable with spending a little bit. So they're a lot of them are around that like less than 0.5% right now. But as we go into this next year, we're seeing shops doubling down and getting a little bit more aggressive with their marketing, because there's going to be a bigger separation from shops that are getting more aggressive and doubling down versus the shops that are saying, this is a little uncomfortable. We're already feeling pain. We're not busy right now and we can't spend money. So to answer your question directly, we're seeing shops move towards that 1 to 3% mark this year.
Got it. It makes sense because obviously we see that Roomvo, and I'm sure a lot of those in the audience too are finding the need to be online is more important than ever. And it's great to have a website, and that's important. But what are the other things that we can be doing to drive traffic into our showrooms and ultimately driving revenue growth?
And again, it's tying this back to realistic expectations. If you're looking to grow your shop by $1 million or $2 million this year, you're probably not going to get there spending $500 a month on marketing.
Fair.
So hiring the experts, like people hire the shops that are on the webinar today, people hire you to do a great job, to show up on time, to exceed their expectations. And that's what you want to look for in a marketing partner, an advisor, a consultant, someone that has that knowledge within your space.
Totally.
This is a summarized version of what I kind of just went through, but it's a little bit more, you can digest it a little bit easier. So again, less than 0.5%, unrealistic for significant growth, 1 to 2% minimal investment, limited new customer acquisition, 2 to 3.5% supports consistent growth, 4 to 8% growth focused, and then 8% and higher, aggressive investment for hyper growth mode. Now, what's considered a good ROI in marketing? So you might say, spending $100,000 a year on marketing, I don't know if I could do that. I don't know if I feel ready for it. So we're going to walk through some of the examples here. So at a 2 to 1 ratio, for every dollar that you spend, you're getting $2 back. And while this may seem like you're breaking even, it's actually probably pretty insufficient in most cases because your operating costs, your overhead, and time investment. But we're going to look at the 5 to 1 ratio, which is a bit stronger. And at this level, you're generating revenue, you're generally covering your costs and driving sustainable growth. And many businesses strive to maintain this as like their minimal benchmark. But where we really want to see you guys is that exceptional piece. So the 10 to 1 and above, right? It's if you can hit that 10 to 1 ROI or higher, your marketing efforts that return $10 for every dollar that you spend. So if you're spending $100,000 in marketing per year, really want to hit that $1 million mark at least. So think about the last campaign or the last marketing partner or person that you had in that seat. Where do you think your ROI landed? And if it wasn't where you wanted it to be, what adjustments can you make moving forward? Let's walk through an example. So using some of those metrics that I just talked about here, $5,000 a month on marketing spend. And we're going to assume the shop has about 1,500 website visitors per month. And about 5% of those visitors convert into a form submission or a phone call. 20% of those inquiries close. That's our sales close rate is 20%. Leading to 15 book projects and assuming about a $7,500 average customer value. So what is our average cost per lead? Well, we're going to take the $5,000 of marketing spend for that month divided by the 75 inquiries. And that's going to get us that $66.67 cost per lead. That's our average for that month. Now, what is the total revenue generated for that month? 15 book projects times the $7,500 average customer value landed about $112,000 in revenue for that month, just using a hypothetical scenario here. So what's our ROI? $112,500 minus your marketing spend divided by your marketing spend, or minus your marketing spend equals 107,000 divided by marketing spend equals about a 21.5x ROI or a 2,150% return on investment for that month. So now imagine that you're paying attention to the numbers that matter. You're not paying attention to the vanity metrics. Imagine that your sales close rate goes from 20% to 30% or 40%. So even if you take this number here, 20% closed won, and you double it to 40%, if you provided sales training, if you held your sales teams accountable, now you have 30 book projects instead of 15, all from the same 75 inquiries. That doubles your monthly revenue to $250,000, giving you a year of about a $3 million annual year for making an adjustment like that. So when you have that data, it really becomes meaningful when it's used for continuous improvement. So tracking an example that I just showed on the previous slide there, analyzing it, adjusting, and tracking it again. It just becomes routine. Forenza Stone is a fourth generation family owned company. And they've installed over 40,000 countertops over the last 25 years. And they have an expansive showroom. They have over 30,000 square feet of countertops with over 3,500 slabs in stock. They are one of Ohio's largest fabricators. Now, they meet weekly with all of their reps. They analyze performance by rep or by designer. They talk through any issues or support needed for specific leads. And they really pay attention to two other metrics that I love, which is speed to lead. So how fast are their reps responding to an inquiry? If you think it's standard still to respond to a lead after 2 to 3 business days when they fill out a form on your site, and you take 2 to 3 business days to respond to them, you probably don't have a seat at the table anymore. Where Forenza, they track this number. They want to respond within 10 to 15 minutes of getting that inquiry. And they also track the other metric of speed to close. How long does a customer take to close, whether it's from the initial stage of getting a quote or it's from as soon as they receive the quote, how long is that time? But before this, they were really dropping leads at the follow-up stage. The marketing was working, but they weren't following through fast enough. And after implementing clear meeting agendas and accountability steps, their conversion rates increased by 15% in only 2 months. So I want you to ask yourself, do you know exactly where your sales handoff happens? Are your teams aligned? And what's one thing that you can do today to close that gap? Another example here, US Flooring to Go. This is a made up name. So it's redacted, right? But this team is a prime example of how automation can really change the game. Every Monday, they pull up their reports with their sales and marketing departments to keep them both aligned and accountable. They have weekly performance checks on total revenue goals, quotes sent, and leads. The graphic on the left is what they review on a weekly basis. What's the total dollar amount of quote value that was sent that week? And how many quotes were sent for the residential market for them? They track metrics by individual sales rep to understand where gaps or strengths exist. and they communicate this feedback back to their marketing department about the quality of the leads that are coming in. It's not necessarily only about the quantity of the leads. So after automating their lead tracking and quote follow-up, their time spent on manual reporting dropped by 30% and their sales rose by 20%. So my 3 actionable takeaways here for this scenario is systemize your data, have those weekly reviews, and team accountability. Another example here. So 2 scenarios, before and after. Scenario 1, we're going to assume that you're not tracking and you're not paying attention to really what matters. You're not meeting with your sales and marketing teams. You might call your marketing person to say, hey, we should schedule a meeting. I haven't talked to you in a while. You're not tracking your calls and your form submissions. You're making decisions based off of emotion versus data. So let's go through an example here. We're going to assume about 500 visitors per month. About 5% of those convert, which lead to 25 calls. 20% of those calls convert into a project, leading to 5 book projects, assuming the same average customer value of $7,500, leading to about a $37,500 monthly revenue. It looks like we have 2 questions in there. We could stop at any time too, if I already passed that slide or not, or we could save it for the end.
Yeah, we can save them for the end.
Okay, cool. Scenario 2. So assume that now you're starting to really pay attention to what matters. You have scheduled meetings. You have accountability within your company, within your culture. You're keeping your marketing department accountable. You're keeping your sales accountable. You're tracking what matters. Taking the same 500 visitors per month, 15% convert because you're making adjustments on your website. You're making adjustments to your ads. You're seeing how your potential customer is engaging within your campaigns, leading to 75 calls versus the 25 here. Assuming the same low bar of a 20% sales close rate, leading to 15 booked projects, keeping the same average customer value or transaction value of $7,500. Now it's $112,500 monthly revenue. So what would a $75,000 a month addition do to your business? It could be expanding the facility, purchasing more equipment, adding new team members, reinvesting it back into the company, and then multiply that by 12. Because now you're starting to really pay attention to what matters. So some best practices here to share. A flooring shop saved around 480 hours by adopting an all-in-one CRM and a marketing platform like HubSpot because it centralized all their tracking into one tool. So I encourage you to integrate tools like your Google Analytics, your technology platforms, tracking codes, ad platforms for better performance reports and marketing attribution. Train your sales team to align with marketing. A flooring dealer increased close rates by 20% after holding monthly training sessions for sales staff to follow up on leads generated by ads. Marketing's job is to get you the leads, sales' job is to follow up and follow through. Sales training ensures that leads generated by marketing aren't lost due to inconsistent follow-up. Hold regular performance review meetings. A business that started bi-weekly meetings to review key metrics like cost per lead and conversion rates uncovered that Facebook marketing was underperforming and reallocated that budget to see a 3x improvement. So consistent team check-ins really help you pivot quickly and avoid wasting ad spend. Tracking your leading and lagging indicators. A remodeling company focused only on revenue, which is a lagging indicator, and they missed early signs of a high cost per lead. That's a leading indicator. And that was hurting profits. Tracking your leading metrics like cost per lead and conversion rates help predict performance and spot red flags early, rather than relying solely on post-sale revenue data. It's something to unpack there. Remember, lagging indicators versus leading indicators. Simplify your reporting. A countertop store reduced decision fatigue by consolidating all ad spend data into a simple monthly dashboard rather than checking multiple spreadsheets and where these leads were coming from and how they were performing. Keep those dashboards simple. Focus on the 2 to 3 metrics that matter most for each campaign. My next one is prioritizing sales and marketing collaboration. A home improvement business improved ROI by 13% by having leadership, sales, and marketing teams meet quarterly to align their marketing spend with annual revenue goals. So involve all decision makers during budget discussions to make data-backed investments and avoid disjointed strategies. Here's a summary of the 6 best practices that I just shared. Again, integrating your tools, sales training, consistent team check-ins, tracking your leading metrics like your cost per lead and your conversion rates to predict performance, keeping your dashboard simple, and then involving all decision makers during budget discussions. Another scenario here, flooring center. Not every shop has advanced systems, but Flooring Center has a more manual approach and it works. So this shop relies on a combination of call tracking, reporting tools, and they've structured it in a way that really provides them meaningful insights. So they use a tool called CallRail. That's CallRail. This allows you to track call sources and they were manually matching their lead data with their CRM. So they can understand where all their leads were coming from when they were talking to the customer. And reports show which leads come from each source. So which convert and how long the sales cycle typically lasts. This, again, allows them to spend more resources in different marketing channels or reallocate it to other areas. And they also run reports to understand why leads aren't converting and tracking feedback directly from their customer interactions. This is an example of what that report looks like. So they could see all their calls that came in, the calls by the number. How many calls did they miss? Does anyone know how many calls that their shop missed last month? If you don't, it's kind of scary because you're missing calls. And then you have your call attribution by source. How many calls did my direct mail campaign drive? Or Google ads, your Bing ads, your billboard? If you're wrapping a bus in your city, your SEO efforts. Here are some tool options. You have your foundation, right? Of Q floors, you have Roomvo, maybe Measure Squared that all integrate really well together. And tracking ROI really effectively starts with having the right tools for your business. So we have our low budget option, things like your standard Google Analytics, which is standard across the board. You have your Excel sheets. And then the mid tier is something that kind of layers right on top and with Q4s, Roomvo, and Measure Square, like Pipedrive for a CRM or CallRail for call tracking purposes. And then your high tier options. If you're looking for something a little bit more complex and robust, HubSpot, Salesforce are normally for the larger organizations. Now, I want to emphasize that without supporting technology or commitment from leadership, marketing ROI becomes difficult to measure and often relies on estimates. Looking the other way makes ROI measurement a guessing game for everyone. So here's your 30-day game plan. And I know we covered a lot within like the last 35 minutes. I know it can feel overwhelming, but the key to success is really breaking it down into manageable steps. So that's where the 30-day game plan comes in. And this is for the person responsible for your marketing. After this call, audit your tech stack. Is your whole team using the technology and the platforms that you have purchased and that you're subscribed to? Where are their gaps? Audit those tools, your CRM, your analytics, your platforms, and implement tracking, making sure that they're talking to one another. Next is conducting sales training sessions and set up those weekly check-ins. Align your team, sales and marketing especially. Third, audit your marketing performance. Identify those high-performing campaigns and adjust. Using those metrics that we talked about on what to pay attention to and what to avoid. Next is reviewing those metrics and build a dashboard. Track your cost per lead, your conversion rates, your return on ad spend, your marketing ROI. Track those 7 key KPIs into your marketing reports. And then lastly, continue to optimize and test. Test your ads, your call to actions, reallocate your spend as needed or where needed. Now, I want to see in the chat or maybe a question here. I want to understand what is one action that you'll apply after this session. Maybe it's paying closer attention to the key metrics that I mentioned. Maybe it's having and scheduling recurring weekly or bi-weekly sales and marketing training sessions or accountability sessions within your business. What is that one action item that you'll apply?
Nick
I,
in the chat says it'll be for him, tracking calls will be a big one.
I love it. That's probably my favorite. And I'm so glad that you said that because like I could talk about that stuff all day. That could be a series of webinars is call tracking. So Edward mentioned, can we get the slides?
Yes, Edward and Bo and Andy both would like a copy of the presentation or some modified slides if possible.
Yeah, that's fine. I could share it.
All right.
Yeah.
Mary had a question a little earlier on, and she asked, how does it work with customers who are in a honeymoon stage, perhaps like a whole year prior to actually making their purchase?
Yeah. So technology like HubSpot, for example, I know at firsthand they can track that whole journey from start to finish. The moment that they fill out a form or call a phone number through your website and they're logged into your CRM, and perhaps they buy a year later, you could track that entire activity, whether it's them continuing to revisit your website for that entire year. And then another thing that I would recommend that a lot of shops leave money on the table with is that a lot of potential homeowners and people aren't converting on that first visit when they visit your website. So similar to how you guys might visit Amazon and you add a product to your cart and then you don't end up purchasing it, but then you see that same product kind of follow you around on different websites. That's exactly what I would invite you to do as well, is retarget and remarket to the people that are hitting your website, but they're not taking action yet because they're just not quite ready.
Awesome. Mary followed up by saying she wants to know what ways she can monitor for conversion for somebody who's maybe been in the pipeline for an extended period of time.
I think the short answer for that is to log it within the CRM and to monitor the progress of that lead consistently. So Mary, I'm not sure what CRM that you might use, but if there's any type of trigger or automation where it says like if there hasn't been any activity or follow up with this potential contact, then remind me to check in with them 2 months from now. And once, then that will help you monitor it for conversion, right?
Awesome. Some other questions that are coming through in terms of investment in digital strategies, is there one that they should focus on more? Is it SEO on the organic side, the paid side, or should it be a balance of both?
I'm going to say that where we see the most luck is Google ads, Google search ads, the retargeting ads within Google, so Google display ads as well, and then your SEO efforts. But that doesn't come around until you have your website that's dialed in. Like your website is your 24/7 sales tool. I know you mentioned that AI chatbot at the beginning that would work incredibly well with the site that's really built out to support ongoing marketing efforts. So I think that's a home run there. Uh, so just to kind of summarize, start with your website, work on that. Phase two would be something like considering your Google search ads, your remarketing ads, and then also considering SEO at the same time. Facebook ads, if there's budget, you primarily use that for two different reasons. Number one is retargeting people that visit your website, so then they see your ads when they go to Facebook and Instagram to get them back to the site. Helps for brand awareness, helps for conversion rate, helps for brand validation and perception as well. And then the second type of campaign that you can run is people that have an interest. Maybe they recently moved, or they're a first-time home buyer, recently engaged or married. They have a household income of over X. They live in these zip codes. Those are some of the criteria that you can target on Facebook, and that might get in front of your audience.
Awesome. Andy is asking, do you suggest using different forms other than a standard contact us form? And do you suggest having pop-ups throughout the website prompting customers and prospects to fill out the form?
I'd be careful of the pop-ups. So this is website specific to your business. Understand how your current users are engaging with your site right now. Be careful of the pop-ups. The longer the forms, the lower the conversion rate. So I know that we can get carried away with saying like we want 16 different questions. We want pictures of their room that they want floors in, and they need to send us the measurements and fill out this long list of questionnaires, this long list of questions. But the longer the form, then we see a drop off in people actually completing it. So we just want to be careful with how many form fields we have in there. Does that answer the question?
I think so. We'll see
Okay.
if any more questions come as a result of that. Someone else is asking, do any of these strategies differ for B2B marketing?
Not quite. I think there might be some different campaign setups that you do for B2B, but really the metrics are very similar for what to track and how I personally go about it too.
All right. And then the last question that I'm seeing is, what can retailers do to generate more qualified leads?
The thing that one of the trends that I see right now is just having your jobs documented, whether it's by picture or video, like your best customers' projects, and making that a standard within your organization. So here's a challenge, right? Is anytime that you have a great customer come in, a great project that you want to continue to get more of those, having a photographer, a videographer document that project and create marketing material for it, whether it's a before and after, a time lapse, a video testimony of the customer talking within their home of the project that you just completed. That will generally get you more of that same customer because that's showing potential customers that you're capable of doing the job. And that only helps your marketing efforts and then also carries into your sales experience too. And it shortens that sales cycle. So that would be one of the things that I see retailers and shops really separate themselves out from each other, is that the stores that don't have that, like great content, are kind of behind on the quantity and quality of lead.
Yeah, and that's interesting too, because we find with a lot of the retailers that we work with, like word of mouth referrals are the strongest, or rather one of the strongest lead sources for them. So being able to, showcase past projects and having that like very accessible for prospects and customers to see, and making that available on the website, it definitely makes sense in terms of being able to drive more qualified leads. There's
Yeah.
one more question that's come through from Louise. She wants to know if there's no response. If there's no response after sending a quote, do you think it's okay to follow up a call daily?
That's your sales style, I guess. I think daily might be too much for me personally. I haven't seen shops take on a daily follow-up approach with post quote. So here's what I've seen, and I'll briefly touch base on this. After the quote is sent, you're also setting up the next appointment via phone or in person to meet with them. And also documenting the number one reason why they wouldn't move forward. So I might say, hey, Louise, what is the one reason why you wouldn't move forward with us? That way you know exactly why they wouldn't move forward. And if they do ghost, right? But if I do meet with you on March 6th, Louise, and you send me the quote, I would encourage you to ask me to set up that next appointment. Hey, how does March 12th work for you? Where we can reconnect and just touch base so I can clarify any questions. And they have to go out of their way to cancel that appointment, right? Or they show up for it.
I like that. It kind of gently forces them to take some kind of action, and hopefully that action is actually showing up for that appointment.
There's an acronym called BAMFAM, which is book a meeting from a meeting. So it's
Yes, we
for salespeople, right?
yes, absolutely. Um, Definitely makes sense, and why not leverage what works in, maybe traditional sales in flooring sales as well.
Yeah, yeah.
I know we've still got a few more minutes. There are still some questions coming through, so I'd love to keep going through them so everyone on the call can hear these answers as well. Andy's asking, do you have any advice on traditional marketing like TV, radio, and print? Obviously, those can be a little bit harder to track, but what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm a big advocate for digital because that's what I do. And I'll say that if you have a hard time tracking it, then it might, like, I probably wouldn't consider it as an option unless you could track it. If you have the extra budget to put it towards that as well as your digital marketing, because the digital side is all trackable. But if you have extra budget to say, hey, I'm okay with spending X, Y, and Z on billboards and radio for this year, just purely for brand awareness and not being able to track it, then I say go ahead.
Yeah, I guess too, it's kind of finding that balance, because there are those times where you do want to calculate your ROI, but also just the brand awareness is important, and striking that balance between what are you willing to spend on those ones that you might not necessarily see that exact return.
Sure. Yeah.
Mary's asking, she uses a tool, I believe it's called Metricall or something along those lines. Are you familiar with any other call tracking tools aside from CallRail? And if you are, how do they compare?
I am not familiar with Metricall, but I have heard of and used call tracking metrics as another
Mhm.
tool. So I'm not, Mary, I'm not familiar with Metricall. Not sure how it compares. We've used CallRail for about 8 years for the shops that we've worked with. They've been great partners of ours. Uh, Call tracking metrics is another one, and then what converts is actually a third one that we've heard of. Not too familiar with Metricall, but I'll definitely check it out. And Mary had another good idea of using QR codes for things like traditional print ads, which I highly recommend as well.
Jessica's asking, would you recommend focusing on customer leads or increasing brand awareness when you may be struggling to obtain new leads or new customers?
I think there's a fine boundary there with you can roll that out into an annual marketing strategy of like what percentage of your marketing is focused to new lead acquisition and then what percentage is going towards brand awareness. So I don't think it's one or none. I think it could be both. Like a 60-70 or 60-40% split, right? It's determine what that split looks like.
Adam, you have a great question. How do you see integrating Roomvo, Q Floors, and MeasureSquare? Currently working with Roomvo on a new website. You use MeasureSquare for measures, Q Floors as your ERP. You want to know about the CRM functionality. Should you use the MeasureSquare CRM, or how do you get them all married together? So I'll take this one, Anthony, because it's more Roomvo directed. But
Yeah.
Adam, I'm sure you're aware of the acquisition that we announced earlier in the year with bringing Q Floors under the Leap Tools fold. And so with that, we have now become kind of that all-in-one solution where we can power your digital ads all the way to your back office with Q Floors. Something that we are also building out in all of this is a new CRM tool. So this will be your hub where you'll be able to track all of your leads and your projects and have everything speak together in one kind of simple, easy to use backend. So your question is very timely. We are hoping to roll out our CRM in the next few months. And so with that, you'll be able to essentially do everything that you're looking for and have all of your systems married together. So following this, I will definitely reach out to you to give you a little bit more information, but we do have a solution for you under the Roomvo umbrella.
Can they start beta testing the CRM or when does that become available for them to start maybe trying it out?
I think that we're planning on rolling that out perhaps in the next month or so. I don't know an exact date for that, but we can definitely get anybody like Adam and those of you in the audience who might be interested in participating in a beta and getting started with Roomvo CRM. We'd be happy to do that with you
Yeah.
guys.
I think that's a great opportunity for people to take that option and to see what it's all about, and see how it could be
Absolutely.
implemented.
Cool. And then Adam had a follow-up question. Are Roomvo and Measure Square under the same umbrella? Measure Square is not. We are partnered with Measure Square and integrated with our Q Floors ERP, but Measure Square is its own business. All right. I think that probably is all the time that we have for today. There's a ton of questions, so we'll make sure to follow up with all of you. If you do have any other questions that we didn't get a chance to chat through today, feel free to send me an email or send an email to your Roomvo rep, and we'll make sure that either the Roomvo team answers them or that we forward them over to Anthony. So again, everyone, thank you so much for joining us, and we appreciate all the amazing questions and conversation. Anthony, thank you for your time. It was an awesome presentation. There's a ton of engagement from the audience, which we love to see, and we appreciate everyone's time.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everyone.